22nd of August 2024, it's on climate change now. Climate change, terrible wet day. The latter half of this day has been torrential rain, no heat, cold, poor children thinking of going back to school, and we have a terrible climate. It's very like Iceland here, and Britain can't be a whole lot better. So in one of my videos there were comments posted. Healy's N or Healy SN post a day ago posted, regarding your comments at the start of climate change, you are misrepresenting the media coverage. Well, I'm not, because the media doesn't give any detail whatsoever where it gets its data or anything. It says it was the hottest year on record and it moves on to the next item. So that's not true. It is not every month is hotter than the preceding one. Oh, is it not? So we should be boiling by now. Yes, if you keep saying that the temperature is rising, well then you would expect to see a rise in temperature over a prolonged period. I mean, it can't have 15 years with a rise every month, and at the end of the 15 years it's the same temperature as when it started. That's my point. That is a scientific way. The overall situation, the cumulative effects. So the common claim is that a particular calendar month is hottest, and that particular month on record is the hottest of that particular month on record. Well, if that's what they're saying, that's a lie. L-I-E. Now, it's the hottest August on record, for example. Yes, that's what they say. The hottest month of August on record. And every time they say that, that's a big, dirty lie. You have to listen carefully to hear whether they are saying it was the hottest month on record in Ireland or globally. In other words, they're dishing out propaganda to the masses of the people, and only the real quick ear that listens, 1 in 10,000, will spot that they're not really saying what they appear to say. It's up to the national broadcaster to make their news intelligible to most of the people. You have to listen carefully as to whether they're saying it is the hottest month on record in Ireland or globally, because it is crazy to say that the temperatures this month in Ireland were low, so they must have been low everywhere. Well, we live in Ireland. We are the ones who are going to have to live with this boiling and scorching heat. And we live in Ireland. If they want to deal with that, if RT wants to deal with it in the Cayman Islands, go over there and preach it over there, because it's not preached over there. And I was over in Italy recently, and I spoke to some people who have both English and Italian, and they're not getting this walloping at all over there in Italy. And it was low, it was very hot. It was 32 degrees. So we in Ireland are getting walloped with this every time we turn on the news, whether they're saying the hottest month on record in Ireland or globally, because it's crazy to say the temperatures this month in Ireland are so low that they must have been low everywhere. I didn't say that. We saw, and I'll go on here what he says, we saw. Now, I had this out on social media with these guys too. They'll not give in. It's a religion with them. We saw over the summer that there were heat waves in southern and eastern Europe. Well, that's their problem. We would love to have that here. Why should we carry the can from them? They will look after their business and we look after ours. Instead of that, we're so busy looking after the businesses of the whole world, we totally ignore our own people. And this is what they were hoping for. Oh, climate refugees? Oh, the whole Greeks are the refugees. They're climate refugees. That fairly fell sharp. When the Ukraine war came on, they couldn't say they were climate refugees. They were fleeing because they were supposedly being bombed by the Russians. And they were being conscripted by their own army. It had nothing to do with the climate. And in their own army, they're being killed by the hundreds of thousands still. So that's what they were fleeing from. It was nothing to do with the climate. So on convincing people to change from one bag of parties to another, I suggest you make some kitten or puppy videos. This is about my attempt. Now, this changes completely away from climate. This is about my attempt to get a few people to change their vote, which happened in the last European election, but it went to Independent Ireland, who, it appears, pulled a smart one. And so I'm trying to make sure that doesn't happen again. So make puppy videos. So you see the insulting way these lefties go on. Go and make a few videos about a pup or a kitten. See, they can't take it. They can't take it. They will attract new viewers who don't already agree with you, and you could try to make some political comments between cats. Yeah, you see, this is the ridiculous thing. Well, the problem I have is that I saw there was a poll that 70% of the Irish people are concerned about refugees. We don't know about the climate, but certainly I would say about 26% of people I interview them unofficially, let's just say it. Something about the weather, something about who got married or something or died, and then I say, oh, what do you think of this climate change? And I get it that way. So I do my own poll. So I don't believe there's 50% of the Irish people give two hoots about climate change. But some will say, like, there's fires out abroad or there's this, that and the other. But it's certainly not enough. And the thing about it is, there's certainly 40% don't give two damns about it, and 40% of the vote would elect a political party. That's the point. So you see the way they insult the pups and dogs, just trying to say, I'm home, I have my view, and I'm keeping it. Well, I produced the bag for you, Healy's, to vote into. Put your vote in there. You have to vote. You have all these parties. I'm saying we have a new parties coming on. Okay, so now I want to look at this thing about temperature and all of that. Now, the first thing to remember is there is no reliable temperature records going back long. None. If there is any anywhere, it's possible there might be one at Greenwich in London. I was there, I looked at it, I didn't get anything to satisfy me. I was in Greenwich and checked out that, and I got no satisfaction. Another one is Cap Norris Jessup. And Cap Norris Jessup is way up in northern Greenland, and it's run by the Danish government or the Greenland people. It doesn't matter, but it is a proper one. And it's very much snowbound. It's not easy getting up and down to it. So they put, I think it's 10 meters above the ground, they put a thermometer up there, and they put automatic reading equipment. But even that, it still needs people to go to it. And so those stations are the best. If you could get data from polar stations, that's not subject to, like in an airport, Dublin Airport, the thermometer is right behind the jet plane, firing in its hot gases in. I mean, they took temperatures in when the airport was open, way back in the 60s, and it showed the temperature, and now it's warmer. Well, what do you expect? I mean, that's ridiculous. So there's very few proper records in Ireland. The other place there was records was in Clonus. There was records in Clonus going back to nearly the foundation of the state in Clonus in County Monaghan. I was up at it too. Unfortunately, they changed that down to Ballyhaise College in a different area. The one in Clonus was on a good bleak hill. The one in Ballyhaise is not as good. So again, that's changed about 10 years, 15 years. So we have a break. So we can't compare the two. And I'm finding this, I think the Irish government and the EU has deliberately, and the US Democratic Party, done everything it can to stop you checking the temperature. Because if you could check the temperature, you would be able to prove it was a scam, which it is a scam. Now remember, I'm examining this for over 20 years. Now, so we look at another one. We look at another temperature. Now, I've dealt with Cap Norris Jessup. Oh, yes, I didn't say this. Cap Norris Jessup records started in 2005, and there's a gap of 3 years in it in the beginning, about 2008. Cap Norris Jessup only began giving records in 2005, and after the first year, it died off for a few years, and it came back again. Now, strangely, about searching for temperature, sometimes they put, a lot of it has been bought over by Metro Blue, who insist you pay for the data. I remember you could get it free. and when that was the case, I could check out Cap Norris Jessup. Now, funny enough, you will get it, the Weather Archive. I'm after just getting it there now. And I've worked out the temperature for this date. This is the 22nd of August 2024. It's the 102nd anniversary of the death of Michael Collins. May he rest in peace. That's another issue anyway. Right. So this is a minus 0.1. It was just, you might as well say it was just freezing. Water would just be starting to get a bit of a crystal on it. So now we look at the temperature for the same day today. So I'm picking today for the simple reason that it would be less likely for me to fix it or to rig it by picking today's date. So folks, the temperature back in 2005, 0.1, it was virtually freezing because it was just on the brink of freezing. And the temperature today is minus 1.6. Minus 1.6. Now, there are only about 9 temperatures given in 2005. That's because they only keep some of it. They don't keep it all. But I can read you out the figures here. You can do what you like with them. Count them up. There's a good few in a minute. Now, if I don't say minus, it's plus. 0.9, 1.1, 1.6, 1.8, 1.4, 1.5, 1.7, 1.1, 0.9, 0.7, 1.1, 0.2. Sorry, that one now is not 0.2. That's 1.2. 1.2. I made a mistake there. Now we'll go on. 1.1, 1.4, 1.4, 1.4, 0.7, minus 0.8, minus 0.3, 0, and 0.1. And I make that temperature to be minus 1.6. Minus 1.6. I've spent a while now scratching my head working that out. It's quite a job. But anyway, you can see that there was a minus 8.8 and a minus 0.3, which brought the other averages down a bit. Now, I'll just have another look at that. Yeah, well, it's about minus 1. But the point is, it is not any hotter. That is the main point. You can check it there yourself. Weather Archive, Cap Norris Jessup. He was a fella called Norris Jessup. He put the station there, and he was a big fella, and they called it after him. I think that's the story. So that's just a rough example of a comparison between the temperature today in 2005 and the temperature in today in 2024. This day on 2005. Now, I had this out online with people before, and they rumped and bumped, and then they humped off, and when you beat them, they wouldn't come back. So that's one record. Now, the other place we go to is Andaman Scott. It's a United Air Force base, or States Air Force base in the Antarctic, Andaman Scott, and we'll get references to it here. Now, yesterday at Andaman Scott, I don't see just this evening's one on it, the temperature was minus 56 degrees centigrade. Minus 56 degrees centigrade. Or minus 68 Fahrenheit. We'll keep it centigrade. Minus 58. Okay. Now it seems they give a temperature in the winter, April to September. That's their winter in the South Pole. So you can't pick an exact date. That's not my fault. But I used to be able to get exact dates on it. But now this crowd, Meteor Blue, has it taken over, and you have to sign up and pay a big fee, all behind a paywall. And this is another thing about the left-wing climate hysterics. If they think there's a way of getting to find them out, they'll put a paywall, anything to try and stop you going in there. Of course, there are books written on this by several people, but nobody reads them. Everyone believes RTE and BBC and all of this. Now, it says the lowest temperature at the Andaman Scott South Pole Station was, I'll convert it here, minus 61 degrees centigrade. I don't know, is that correct? Because I got a different temperature. It seems to be. Now, Andaman Scott only opened in 1957. So how can they talk about what it was 100 years ago? It only opened since 1957. And I think Cap Norris Jesuit is only open 2004, 2005. Here's the graph. And you can see there that minus 61 is in 2021, was the lowest temperature ever. And never ever heard the like of such low temperatures before. And I'll just read the article. The Andaman Scott South Pole Station recorded the coldest average temperature from April to September in 2021. This graph shows the average temperature since 1957. Yeah, so it was minus 57 when they started off, and it rose in the 60s to minus 57.3 or thereabouts. Sorry, I have that wrong. The low, when they were only going a few months, it fell to minus 58.6 degrees centigrade. And it rose then up to minus 57. And it was up and down all the time a little. But the lowest temperature was minus 61 in 2021. So they will not tell you that because they are lying. Current temperatures are still far from the coldest ever recorded on the continents. On July the 21st, 1983, during the Antarctic polar night, researchers at Vostok, I think that's Russian run, and they have abandoned that as far as I know, weather station, recorded a new record of minus 69.6. So this is only 1983. So we're well into the global warming by then. Minus 86 centigrade. On July the 23rd, 2004. Oh, the global warming was full steam ahead. Al Gore was just about to make his film. Satellite measurements northwest of the research station even recorded a surface temperature of minus 98 degrees centigrade. My God almighty, minus 98 degrees. Minus 98.6. The data was measured by means of a satellite spectrometer. Don't ask me, infrared, I don't know. Anyway, folks, you see the point that we'll just see here. Even now, with spring in full swing, Antarctica continues to experience record temperatures. That's low temperatures. A few days ago, the Russian, and this is what Vostok reported, minus 79.4, just 6 degrees above the October temperature. Now, this report comes from Polar Journal, right? So, if anything, it's getting colder. It says here in the heading, it's never been so cold in the South Pole. Never been so cold in the South Pole, right? So, now just read the caption. While last summer in the Northern Hemisphere had experienced record high temperatures, well, they should put in there, according to the BBC and according to RTE and the International Climate Change Committee, who up until a few years ago was managed by a railway engineer. He was Pashuri was his name. He went over to India. He got into some trouble over there, but he's the one that was telling us all this. But in any event, they say it's the highest temperature. I don't agree. Now, and the forest fires in Siberia, they were always there. There were forest fires in the west of America, thousands of years. That's why the Great Plains have no trees. They keep burning down. And I was in Yellowstone National Park in 1999, and they were after having a fire 10 years before, and all the trees were there burnt. It's part of nature. That's how nature rejuvenates, right? So now, it had never been so cold. It has never been so cold in the South Pole. The average temperatures at Andaman Scott Station at the South Pole between April and September, that'd be 2024, was minus 61 degrees centigrade, the coldest since record began in 1957. So to put it mildly, folks, what's happening is for you and me, but not for Healy's End, we're being lied to. They're telling us big dirty lies. Now, according to this, there was also a temperature of minus 66 in that place as well, but we'll see how that goes. Now, on the other side of the coin, Here is a video from Furnace Creek in Death Valley, United States. Furnace Creek in Death Valley, United States. Now, this article shows a police officer, and they're all coming over to the hottest place in the world, and they're all there and driving in with cars and all the rest, fossil fuel driven cars, and all talking, and it's a holy terror, as to say, but this is apparently in, well, it says 8th of July 2023. That would seem to be Midland, but that's comparatively recently. And the temperature is 52 degrees centigrade. That is unbelievable heat. I mean, say if you had a patch on the car tyre, it'd take it off it. But it's 52 degrees centigrade. Now, it must be remembered about Death Valley. Death Valley is something like 200 feet below sea level. It's an enigma. It's a strange thing. And there are two mountains each side. And the result is that cooling winds can't get in there. It is a uniquely hot place. There's a population of about 150 in it. And of course, they have their thermometer there, and it's reported all the time. So this now is 52. This is put as the highest thing ever. Oh my God, whatever. Now, bear in mind that in California, people are only there 150 years. So who knows what the temperature was long ago. But it's very important to understand. Bear in mind now, 52 plus 52 degrees. Now, it was 56.7 degrees on July the 10th, 1913. 56.7. It gives it on this article as 57. That's rounded. 56.7 is the official high temperature. And that would be correct. Now, bear in mind, the American Civil War ended in 1865, so there would have been a trail out west in about the 1880s. The California Gold Rush was 1849, so around that period, but it would take a while to settle things and get a bit of government in there and all of that. It joined on the 9th of September 1850. It joined the Union. So it would have taken a bit of time to get that weather station. So we don't know what the temperatures were before that, except that whatever they were, it peaked in 1913, and that temperature was 56.7 degrees, and that has never been equalled. And yet the Yanks are going around bawling. It was 52, the highest on record, when in fact it's nothing of the sort. It's a big, damn, dirty lie. And the heat at Death Valley has nothing to do with the general world temperature. It's a unique lowland, low-lying desert place. But it is an indication of how high temperatures can go. And I've given you examples of the South Pole and the North Pole, which are also indications of how low temperatures can go. There's a weather station in Canada. It's a communist state, and so it's not reliable. As I say, I have spent 15 years off and on at night time when other people would be watching telly, researching what I could get. I never got proper statistics, but those are fairly good. They're rigging it every way they can, and they're lying and lying and lying. This thing, oh, it was the highest on record worldwide. It's up to RTE to say we're dealing with world temperatures. Where are those world temperatures picked up? Where are they picked up? What weather stations are chosen? Do they pick a hot one this week? So if it's very hot in Greece, do they include it? And next week, if it's cold in Greece, do they pick one in California? And the next week, do they go back to Mexico? Do they shop all around? You know, the answer is most certainly they do. These are hysterical communist bullies, and they have no regard for the facts. We know that they skated on the Thames about the 1500s, and we know that 1741 was so cold in Ireland, crops were lost. There was a mini famine. The Healy Rays brought that up in the Dáil. And we know that then we had a slight rise in temperature from 1850. If we didn't have the rise in temperature, we would be freezing today. it'd be even colder here. So the monks occupied Skellig Michael in 850. I was there, and they left in 1250, and that was 400 years. And the reason was given was that it grew progressively colder. In Greenland, the Vikings set up a farming community in South Greenland. There's remains of a church there yet. They had to go. The cold got colder, and that's in keeping with the fact that the Romans grew grapes in Britain away back in the when they were in there, was it the 2nd or 3rd century, around that, and they grew grapes and all of that, and so the next thing was it got warmer and warmer. So in 850 it got very warm. And these two events happened. And then in 1250, both of them were deserted due to the cold weather. And then it stayed cold until about 1850, which was 600 years. And the temperature has risen a little bit. If it didn't, we wouldn't have the quality of life in Britain or Ireland we had in the last while. There would be very few crops. It was very cold, and we had famines, and we had all that. So it began to get progressively better in 1850, and then as it did, it's gradually rising since. And the 1930s was particularly dry in Ireland. It was dry. They used to say there'd be dust after the harrow, and that continued till 1946, till there was a snowfall in 1946, and there was such rain in 1947 that they had to bring the army and the people from Dublin out to the fields to gather up the corn and the hay, and there was no tea. They had to bring their own tea. You had to provide them with food, but they had to bring their own tea, because tea was rationed for the farmers and everybody else. And God be good to my father, told me about the struggles to get the corn saved those years with compulsory tillage. It was a big struggle. It was difficult. Now, so then we come into a period of 1963, there was a terrible cold winter. And by the way, in 1947, there was cattle in the sphere of Arva that was on the way home when the snow fell, and they never got home. The snow built up around them and they died there. In any event, that was 1947. So in 1963, there was a bad snowfall, and then it comes into my memory then, and we had the weather we have roughly now, but we seem to have this year a little more rainfall. But there was rain that time, and in 1985 came rain, and there was no hay got. Nobody had hay, and they had to start making bag silage. I had to go up the north to get bags to put the silage into, and we saved some of it, and it wasn't a good success. As a result, the round bale silage came on the job, and if you were trying to make hay in the last 3 years in this country, you would fail. I got 32 bales this year, but I lost another 40 bales because I only cut a little bit at a time, hoping I'd get a few days. But I got a little. But for the ordinary producer, you couldn't do that. So it's wetter, certainly. There was hay got in those years, but you must remember in the 47s, I've explained to you, you could save hay with lapping it and by hand, by just staying with it in the field all the time. You can't do that now in the age of the tractor. So all told, we're no change at all. There is no change in the climate. It's a little warmer from the 1700s up to now, and only for it'd be a total disaster. We'd have no crops, or we'd have little grass, or we'd have nothing. And now we have a good growth, but we have a lot of wet, and then the tractors are getting bigger and bigger, and then there's complaints they're not able to travel on the land. Well, what do you do? If you make the tractors 3 times the size, you're going to have a bit of problem with them sinking. Does that make sense? All told, on 29 minutes, this climate change is a manufactured feature of modern decadence, in which they need, the religion died out, or near enough, and they need something to panic over. The idea of a sin is gone. There's no sin anymore. At the American Democratic Congress, they were given free vasectomies and free abortions this week. So the whole thing is this something to panic. There is no scientific evidence of climate change caused by man, and there's none really caused by nature. As I said, We are an island out in the Atlantic Ocean. Our climate is very like Iceland. I was to Iceland a few times, and it is very like Iceland. We are way above the level of Paris or indeed New York on the globe, and so we're out in the middle of a steaming bathtub really, and we get a bit of wet. That's the way it is. We have to take our chances, but in any event we get by. So that's my answer to Healy S. Oh, it's all this, that and the other. These people wouldn't count if you give them a ball frame. They don't want to know about mathematics. If you talk about mean, medium, mode, standard deviation, scatter diagrams, or learning curve, or the Poisson method, or any of those mathematical instruments, you might as well be idle. All they know is, I'm told by the EU, and I'm told by the Climate Change Forum, and YouTube have put a notice underneath Val's video to say that he's wrong, and no matter what you talk about, he's wrong, and they have a big notice and nobody gives a hoot what they're right. The fact of the matter is, it's a hoax, an elaborate scam. Al Gore said in 2006, I saw the film, the one that scared the drawers off them. He said the polar ice caps would be gone by 2015 on both poles. What a lie he told. He was guessing. It turned out the polar ice caps are there the same as ever. The same size. The sea levels are the same. I know marks on rocks where I fished as a kid in the sea. They're the same. Then they'll tell you, oh, the sea changes in different places. We don't want to hear that crap. We want to see the facts before our eyes. We want to see the facts before our eyes. The ice caps are there. Then the show on the BBC, the Antarctic and calving, which is what happens is the snow comes down and it keeps moving towards the coast, and at a certain point it overcomes the coast and a big chunk falls down into the sea and it melts. That's what sank the Titanic in 1912. It was one of those calving events that caused all those deaths. So the BBC shows this chunk falling off. Oh, it's climate change. Oh, it's climate change. It's been happening for hundreds of thousands of years. That's my case. Call me what you like. We'll debate it. Come up with your facts. I'll review whatever facts anyone has, but you don't have them. I'm so long arguing with these idiots that it gets monotonous at this stage. If the temperature is going up everywhere on the globe, then we should see the temperature rising in the South Pole, in the North Pole, and any other reliable places there are, particularly away from man. Then they come along and they have a weather station somewhere and they build a city around it, a big city, and they say, oh, the temperature's gone up, you know, and they've thousands and thousands of meters of mass concrete blocks and building and steel all up in the air where the wind or the breezes can't get off, full of people, full of central heating and the whole lot. Oh, it's got hotter. Oh, it's got hotter. Listen, we're not bloody idiots, Healy's. We're not idiots. We can count as good as anyone else. We can see, we can hear, and we can sense the cold. And people tonight in Ireland on the 22nd of August have their fires on. They have their oil-fired heating on. They have their gas-fired heating on because it's cold. And it will be cold, and we could be in for an early winter, and I'm telling you, we'll soon see. And all the Greens can do is put a carbon tax on our fuel, which never was known. It was treated as a necessity of life, the same as children's footwear, and put carbon tax on our fuel, and take all the diesel oil to run their stupid power stations to keep the windmills going, and let us go to hell. The question is, will the people continue to vote for that? And that is where I have to yield to my critics and say I do not know, but we can certainly give it a try. Comment underneath. We'll see you back. Good luck. See you.